almost understand. Intellectual crush. I got an intellectual crush on everybody in the room tonight. I've had a chance to connect with my boy Charles Carpenter the third. He said, "Got to say the whole thing, y'all."
Yes, sir.
Houston. She said the I before E. I forget what she said, but I'm gonna forever because English ain't my thing. And my girl, my sister from another mother, Doctor. I didn't call you Doctor. Well, Mrs. My favorite friend, Erin Dale. How you doing?
I'm doing good, comrade. How are you doing? It's good
I
to see
am.
you.
I'm so
Good work.
glad for you to be here. Y'all must understand. I'm telling y'all a story about Erin, right? Protesting. I gonna do it, right? I do the best.
Pictures of
Right?
you in those marches, just so we're
I was in the march
okay.
too.
Yeah.
Oh Lord, I didn't know I was in the march. Okay, so me and Erin was in the march, y'all. She's been going back forever. Y'all know the people who was marching when y'all was like, wait, what's going on? Erin one of them, y'all. And not only has she worked with so many organizations I can't remember, but she has been grassroots forever, and I'm so excited. Erin was the person that hit me to this. When you're on the front lines doing this work, it can begin to affect your mental health. When you can begin to burn out. And it was Erin who helped me see, wow, we got to look out for our community activists, our pastors, our leaders, the people who are doing that work because it gets heavy. And that's not what we're talking about. But Erin, thank you for, helping us, helping me understand that. And we're going to do an introduction. So be thinking about your introduction, tell people about you. Brother Charles Carpenter, I'm excited. This brother, when he speaks, he's like up next. I met him at the Saving Black Families Conference, and I was just excited to see a young man on his journey, Mr. Charles, Brother Charles Carpenter, just begin to see not only has he decided to step into industry, a career that other people aren't doing, but he has purpose behind it. I love it. I love it. And OMG, Darciea. Ooh, child, y'all. Y'all, Darciea was talking. Y'all, I thought she was talking to me. Like, she was talking to me. But y'all know when y'all go to church and y'all feel like the pastor telling all y'all business? Darciea just had me going. And when she talked tonight, y'all gonna see she gonna be talking to all your muscles and whatever. But anyway, without any further ado, let's do some intros. Charles, if you don't mind introducing yourself, let people know who you are, your background, your mom and them, where you're from, what you do. Tell us about you, your origin story. Charles, tell us about you, your background, where you went to school, things like that.
Yes, sir. First and foremost, I got to thank you, Mr. Baldwin, for having me on here. Mr. Baldwin saw me at the Saving Black Families Conference and offered me the opportunity to come here. So more than anything, I'm appreciative to be on your platform and be able to, show love and, be able to talk. And you even find interest in what I do. But with no further ado, my name is Charles Carpenter. I'm a graduate student in the Department of Horticulture here at Kansas State. Yeah, so I study horticulture with the emphasis or specialization in urban food systems. I'm a graduate and I'm an alumni of Prairie View A&M University. I study agriculture with a concentration of plant and soil science. And I had the opportunity to be a part of our student garden and be a part of our community at Prairie View. But I'm originally from Fort Worth, Texas. So yeah, I'm from Texas. So from Texas, I had the opportunity to play sports in high school. I had the opportunity to go to college and play sports on scholarship for the first couple years until COVID. But then I had the opportunity to be a research assistant and transition more into academics. And that's really kind of my story. And just going to Prairie View, being able to understand what I liked, understanding the different aspects of agriculture, and understand the community behind agriculture, especially at a HBCU, was something that I can't even explain the benefit to it. So I had the opportunity to go there, and I'm extending my studies now at Kansas State University.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Charles. Darciea, how you doing? Tell us a little bit about you, where you come from, where your people from. Tell us about you, Darciea.
My name is Darciea Houston. I am also known as Major Melanin in these streets, and I'm your favorite farmer. I'm from the Midwest. I live in Dallas, Texas. I farm about an hour from the house in Maybank. My business is called Filthy Rich Nutrients, LLC. And I also have a HBCU background from Paul Quinn College here in Dallas. They do not have an agricultural program, but that's not why I went. My actual love and desire is to inspire people via motivational speaking for holistic health and wellness. And so I got to that place by managing the farm at Paul Quinn College, starting a farmer's market, then managing farmers markets, then meeting up with Dr. Layla Africa and his wife, Dr. Melanie Stevenson, for my holistic health and wellness training. Then went to Cuba and studied permaculture with Soil and Souls. out of New York. And there's a whole host of other things that I won't name, but one of my biggest new things is working with JFD Farms in Valdosta, Georgia, and we host conferences for whole families, not just the parents, not just the children, but the whole family, because we can't give information to one segment and think the other generation knows about it. But that's me, your girl. We'll talk later.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Darcia. Erin, how you doing? We'll get you on.
Greetings. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Tell us a little bit about you and your background, your origin story.
Origin story. So I'm actually a military brat, and my family is from Tennessee and Texas. I have a lot of family in Fort Worth and Dallas and East Texas and Marietta. I live in North Carolina. I've been here for 25 years. I work for the Partnership Funds, which is a pooled fund that focuses on getting community groups resources that for general operating support to help them organize and manage their business, their organizations, and grow sort of their membership and their infrastructure. And we also have a fund that's called the Collective Courage Fund. It invests in Black food and land cooperatives across the country. And then at home, I volunteer as the president of Fertile Ground Food Cooperative, which is an effort to start a community-owned cooperative grocery store in Southeast Raleigh. We currently have 900 owners, and we're building a 1,000-square-foot grocery store that's community-owned and a cooperative, which means that our members have bought in, and they're owners of this grocery store. They purchase a share, and in return for that share, they have like governing authority over the grocery store, and eventually when it profits, they'll receive dividends and other types of benefits. We also are growing. Our goal is also to have an urban farm on that site as well, which will be on Garner Road around the corner from my house. Probably an opening in 26 is our goal. That's a little bit about me. And I met Calvin. Calvin helped actually at the beginning of HK on J. So if folks know about Reverend Barber and the Moral Monday movement in North Carolina, on the beginning of that movement in 2005 and 6, there was an effort called HK on J, Historic Thousands on Jones Street. And if you remember, it was we had the first Facebook for HK on J. Go all the way back. And so that's a little bit about me. My background, I have two sons. I have a 20-year-old and a 25-year-old. My eldest son is a graduate of A&T, and my youngest son is at Wake Tech.
Awesome. Thank you, Erin. I'm looking forward to asking you a few questions, but let's get started with Charles. Charles, I love your story of how you got into, urban food systems. Do you mind sharing your personal journey and how you transitioned from being a student athlete to studying urban food system, especially the part about when you went to school and why you went to school as a student? Tell us your origin story there, Charles.
Gotcha. It's actually kind of interesting. And when you bring about it, it just makes me reflect on just the process it took to get here. But COVID was one of the reasons why I had to transition out of sports. I was a walk-on at Prairie View. I ran track. And basically COVID kind of cut the season short, and I had to start figuring out what I was going to do. I was applying to a whole bunch of jobs. I was wherever I could get any type of money. I was like, I need to do something. I was looking on Indeed, and I saw the opportunity to be a research assistant. And when I became a research assistant at Prairie View, I had no agricultural backgrounds. I was saying this in a panel discussion at Saving Black Family, the national conference. I never used a lawnmower. I was so detached from any type of anything agriculture, but I knew I had a passion for nature, the environment, and eventually food security. So, fast forward, I ended up becoming a research assistant. And then I joined our student garden club. That's a part of the university. I was under one of my mentors, Dr. Carson. If she ever sees this, shout out to Dr. Carson. She gave me my first opportunity to be a leader on campus and kind of reshape and kind of purpose myself. So being a part of the student garden, I started to understand food security and food insecurity. I don't know if anyone knows, but Prairie View, we don't have a grocery store in the city. The closest grocery store is in Hempstead and in Waller. I started to understand the necessity of growing different produce and how the community galvanized by it. A lot of times when we were harvesting different things, the elders of the community came out, and it seemed like they had such an attachment to the things that we were growing, the foods that we were growing, and they appreciated it so much. So in that aspect, I was like, man, this is something interesting. I'm in plant and soil science, and kind of like Darciea, plant soil science is more focused on soil science and not really vegetable production. So I was kind of teaching myself along the way through my experiences being a leader on campus. And then eventually, the fast forward that, I become the president of the Student Garden Club on campus, and they kick us off our land. Basically, like the land that we had that they kind of carved out for the student garden, we had to bring all our gardening to the campus. So we had to grow around the building. And that's what kind of introduced me to urban agriculture and making the most of the things that you have. So we kind of guerrilla garden and took some spots. My apologies. We had a guerrilla garden, take some spots, and started to grow vegetables in front of people. And people started to actually start to see food grow in front of them. And it was kind of fascinating to them because they're like, dang, this is a cabbage right here. This is some tomatoes right here. This is some bell pepper right here. So I just started to see the importance of it, educating people how to grow their own foods. And I was learning myself throughout the whole process. But every little knowledge that I got, I gave it to the people that was around me and interested. So that kind of showed me kind of where my little niche was. And, I couldn't conceptualize large scale agriculture. I'm from an urban area. I'm from the inner city. So this felt natural to me, understanding the innovations of agriculture, urban ag, and how it's becoming something new. It just all started to fall in line, and kind of like God made it easy for me to figure it out. So it was a blessing in itself.
Awesome. Thank you, Brother Charles. Darciea, I definitely want to hear, and let's talk about food access, food sovereignty. Tell us about your personal journey and what got you started with Filthy Rich Nutrients. What happened? And please throw in Cuba, because when you talk about Cuba, I'm just like, I don't know what she doing with the sunrise and the sundown. Tell us about Filthy Rich Nutrients and how you got started.
Got started because, for one, I had 3 children by the age of 22. My husband and I, so I'm on benefits. And I'm starting to see the disfavor in my situation, in my household, in the grocery store shop. It was just, everything was so cumbersome, and I'm at a deficit. I'm lacking all the time. And with my need to be in holistic health and wellness, that it was contradicting to me to not know what the land needs if I need things from the land, because I can't continue to trust when Whole Foods got sold. And then now I'm starting to see products from everywhere. And then now y'all bringing in liquor and making all the tea sections smaller, and you can't find feverfew. So we started this farmers market at Paul Quinn, and we had partnered with another organization. The farmers market was popping. Dope money popping. I'm like, yo, growing like the weight, so I was like, this is money, at the end of the day, money. So I need to figure out how to do more, get my kids engaged. The money got the kids engaged. Everything was about, the money. But for me, holistic. I'm out in the sun of God every day. Water, wind, barefoot, just cooking on the farm. So farmers market come, everybody's excited. We got trash truck drivers and city workers and some of the staff from the school, teachers. It was just cool. They come next year. I get invited to Cuba to go learn more, to do more. The people that we partnered with said, oh my gosh, it's too hot. Darcia's not here. We're shutting the market down. And so at our HBCU, Becky and them was able to not renew any kind of permit, was not held accountable. Nobody charged them up, nothing. So now we got people showing up. There's no food or nothing. I created an organization with my soil sisters, and I said, I'm going to help people grow, and I'm going to start this business. And this is some dirty shit. This is some filthy rich nutrients right here. So that's how, the name came about. But now they need to grow, but we don't have. No, you have to understand, food apartheid, a desert is thriving, so we don't need to be a desert, because a desert do what it do. But this food apartheid situation brings about some other things. We're also a hardware store apartheid. We're also a fabric store apartheid. We're also the trades. We do not have access to the other things that are needed. So if I want my clientele to grow, I'm going to have to give them some soil, aren't I? Well, started composting, vermiculture, went to Texas A&M for their horticulture program, and, just big, and then was an exchange student at Duke University at the Nicholas School of Environment. It was called Duke Immerse. And ecological restoration, social injustice, environmental racism, and community planning and outreach. I was just going to get these people together. I was going to have content. We were going to talk about soil. Nobody wanted no damn soil. I failed so fast, so hard, y'all. I didn't know what to do with my life. All right. And then my land was deficit of soil, of the nutrients needed. And I know that melanin dominance requires more nutrients than what we're getting in the grocery store. So I still took this love and had to do it for self. So I know that community is important. But my message is not community, y'all. My message is selfish. Get your stuff together for you. And that's what I had to do. Once it failed for them, I still had to pick it up and do it. Now I understand not to treat the plants, but to always treat the soil. Then it comes to the psychological part of it. My environment is what's going to give me the nutrients. And if the environment is always lacking, and full of erosion and drug needles and glass and a whole host of other things, I don't even want to dig up that soil. Now it's time to build on top. And I'm not talking about raised beds. I'm literally talking about building up the soil on the land to let the land heal as a Band-Aid. So this process for me was a community idea, but it came back to be real selfish. And now, 10 years later, you have a lot of people interested in what it is I'm doing and, soil. But Cuba, I saw that they weren't using any of the same products. They had an apothecary. There wasn't an aggressive cat or dog. And don't act like I went on the tourist side. I wasn't over there chilling with pina coladas and, and just doing it. No, we were farming. We were observing land. We were living in different communities. We were in Airbnbs. We went to the hospitals. And once you start to see the side effects of what our food is doing, if you're going to shop in a grocery store, this grocery store is attached to the pharmacy, artificials. So if you're going to eat there, you're going there. It's common sense. So I don't want to go there. So I try to get what I can get from the grocery store. I do have to, go to the grocery store, but I started to want to grow what I needed. And this became a selfish movement. Y'all will benefit if you want it. But I'm not out here no longer trying to partner to give it.
Awesome. I love a journey. The journey of, look here, I started out with community trying to help my cousin them. Then however, ain't nobody want any soil. I love it, Darciea. Erin, up next, I would love to hear your story because, I haven't heard this part of your story. What got you involved in community or organization and cooperative development? Like, how did you even get started, right? And of course, while you're speaking, let us know why you chose to become a founding owner of Fertile Ground Cooperative. What's your background? How did you get into this community work and what led you to Fertile Ground?
So I spent the last 25 years doing work to get people out to vote. And that was including voter registration, administrative stuff. So same-day voter registration, changing the laws here so folks can vote early and register to vote all the way up to the Saturday before Election Day. Other things like redistricting, focusing on ending gerrymandering, all types of stuff to make voting more accessible. And the reality of that is voting is a tactic. It's not a strategy. So we can increase the number of people and get as many people as possible to vote. But it's really only the first step after you vote. It doesn't change the material conditions. And realizing that was hard for me after putting so much energy into helping increase voting. And I love to focus on, I still do a lot of support to get people out to vote. And the thing that was really clear to me was I can help somebody to vote, but it doesn't change my neighbor's conditions. It's not getting my neighbor a job as an example, or it's not providing food. Thank you, Darwin. And so I had this realization also that in that movement, you go out and get people to vote. So the election industrial complex is a $14 billion industry. This means that every year they spend $14 to $15 billion on getting people out to vote. And a lot of that money is going to the profiteering class. So this is the folks that are making the most money off of making the TV ads and all these kinds of things. And so it's not going to the community groups on the ground. So when you think that 14 billion, think about the profiteering class, the class that is making millions of dollars off of voting. And so there's the profiteering class making millions of dollars off of voting. There is voting as a tactic and not a strategy. So we tell people to vote, 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 go vote, vote, vote. You have all this power. Your ancestors died for you to vote, 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 vote. They go vote and nothing changes in their material lives. And then they don't want to vote no more. And then we wonder why people don't want to vote. After cycle after cycle after cycle after cycle after cycle of this, something in me changed. I was having a conversation with my son, and my son said, "Why, mother, do you fight racism and capitalism? You never will change nothing." And I'm like, "But what about this? But what about that?" And he said, "Well, more of our people are just going to die." And it fell upon me that I needed to shift my energy to building the alternative that we were seeking. So many of us are resisting what is at play, and we must do that. But others of us must build the new world that we're trying to get to, and we have to like do two things at one time. And I wanted to be a part of building the reality. Specifically, the cooperative is a business and an enterprise that requires folks to economically participate. The cooperative has values, concern for community, cooperation among cooperatives, autonomy. That concern for community really speaks to me. Economic participation. There are a number of values that are in the cooperative business, and the cooperative business must organize the people. So essentially, your idea is to get to a scale where thousands of people are voting together to govern their enterprise and then benefit directly from the enterprise. And this is sort of building a cooperative economy over building a capitalist economy. The capitalist economy is one where you have a manager or an owner that must profit from the labor of the workers. This is like the core difference between the cooperative and, say, the capitalist economy. And the capitalist economy also is never going to get enough. It is a hungry beast. It consumes and consumes and consumes so that a small group of people at the top can profit as much as possible, which is why you have a system where a CEO can make 500 times the lowest paid worker in his business. The cooperative model allows the worker, the consumer, the owner. There is no owner because we're all owners. So the workers are sharing in the power in the decision making, and they're voting, one person, one vote. So to me, it was like, I can build something with others, or we can build something where folks are experiencing voting instead of me going out and trying to get somebody to vote. And if more of us were experiencing voting in our jobs, in our banking system, in our childcare system, in our gas station, in our grocery store, in our everything, if people were experiencing democracy, then we wouldn't have to fight so hard to get them to vote to govern the civil society. When I say govern the civil society, I mean United States government is set up so that the people rule, but our experience is that we're being traumatized by a lying government. So to get to like a place where folks and that traumatizing of us by the corporate class and the capitalist system is by design so that we will give up our power by not voting. So it's a vicious cycle that kind of goes around and around and around, right? So you say to people, your vote doesn't matter, and they experience that their vote doesn't matter. They're less likely to vote. Then they're giving up their power over what's called the commons. The commons would be your school system, your parks, your roads, these things that belong to all of us that are actually ours. They're the public domain, the public stuff. The capitalist system wants us to release the public stuff so that it can then privatize the schools, the jails, the waste, the post office, so that a small group of people at the top can then profit from our pain and our suffering and our lack of living wage jobs and our lack of clean air and water. Somebody is profiting from all of this pain. So what led me to the co-op is it felt to me to be the only reasonable alternative that would address a whole bunch of things in one vehicle, in vehicle meaning like organization or type of organization. So one kind of vehicle is designed to address a whole bunch of problems at one time if well organized and implemented. The other thing about the co-op model is you're building a vehicle where people are eye to eye. So there isn't like this system where some people are better than other people. It's not supposed to be designed that way. Now, sometimes it is, but it's not supposed to. So it felt to me like if I focused on being a cooperator over a capitalist, then I would be a part of building the types of organizations that could transform our conditions in a way that traditional businesses and nonprofits cannot, because they're structurally not designed to infuse power into people. And the last thing I want to say about the co-op is one of the other values is training and education, which means that you are mandated as a cooperator to invest in the skills, education, and consciousness raising of the people, of our people, and do political education and skills building education, and to also be then transparent about your operation. So there were so many things about the co-op as a vehicle that inspired me and that offered me a way to focus on one type of vehicle that could address a whole bunch of challenges at one time. And I do want to also say thank you for this, for like even hearing my voice. Fannie Lou Hamer was a cooperator. A. Philip Randolph was a cooperator. Du Bois was a cooperator. All of them were cooperators. Their stories at Rosa Parks was a cooperator. Their stories as cooperators are hidden because those stories are not told, because I don't think that the opposition, which is racism, capitalism, and a whole bunch of other isms, the opposition as individuals and system doesn't want us to understand. Martin Luther King doesn't want us to understand that some of these leaders that we're lifting up were actually trying to change the economic conditions while also creating more access to a deep democracy.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Erin. You know, we ain't talked in a while, girl. It's been 10 years. I remember when y'all started that cooperative. I remember you like, I'm gonna go meet and we're gonna do some vegetables and stuff. I remember, right? And you know how it is, y'all, when people be working on projects, like, I go Erin again, talking about she gonna do a grocery store. Now, some 10 years later, Lord, she been preaching, and I like what she said, because I'm the number one person. I'll be like, capitalism, capitalism, capitalism. I'll be like, y'all, as men said, we ain't got no flag, we ain't got no religion, we ain't got no culture. They took all that and gave us capitalism. And you look around, we just selfish, 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 because as she says, the capitalist thing, it's insatiable. It's a black hole. It eats everything. And it wants more, right? So I'm sorry, I'm just gonna pause for a second, because girl, we ain't caught up. You didn't, well, y'all, Erin healed y'all, but I'm going to my brother Charles. Charles, I hate to put you off after, Erin, because she healed y'all, but we're gonna talk about young folks, Charles, young folks.
Yeah.
Charles, going behind Erin, tell us about the work you're doing when it comes to farming, urban farming, and how you're reaching young people. I love, love, love how Mr. Curtis Pitts have said so much often when he's working with the kids he's trying to get them out of the gang, he's trying to get them reformed. And he says he loves when you go and speak to the young people because you connect with them. Tell us how you are connecting with young people and helping them understand the benefit of urban farming.
I think I'm able to connect with the youth because I was a youth not too long ago. I know the things, I know their language, I know what they're on, at least what's the trends and the things of that nature. So when I get a chance to talk to them and I'm around them, I'm making a personable connection with them. I don't just look at them because let's say this for an instance, if a child was being kind of rambunctious or anything like that, I have a more understanding where I can talk to him and I could discipline him in a fashion that he respects, because I've been able to create this personable relationship with them. So I think that's one facet of the way I'm able to connect with them. I'm doing this past summer, I had the opportunity to work with Nicodemus Educational Camp. I created the curriculum for their camp, and my thesis is about the perspectives before and after the camp, the curriculum. So being able to expose them to these opportunities where they get hands-on opportunities and be exposed to agriculture. The camp, they come to Kansas State to be kind of in college for a day. They get to see a day in the life of what college is all about and get to see agriculture opportunities and careers. So for myself, when I was growing up, I never had those opportunities. I never had the opportunity to go to a college campus to my first day of college, or be able to be hands-on, go to a farm, see where my food is coming from. So I think a lot of these kids benefit from that, and they see something other than what they see on the TV screen or what they see on TikTok or whatever they see on Instagram. It's breaking molds and it's allowing them to be themselves and like something. Like I remember this past summer, it was a kid who was rambunctious, but once he got around some fish and he got to hold a fish and he got to do some things like in nature, I'm not gonna say he chilled out, but I could tell that an interest for agriculture, wildlife, nature was there, and it was always there inside of him, but he probably didn't have the opportunity to A, see it, or B, be around a culture or a group that allowed him to be himself. So I think I connect with them because I'm them, but I'm in this space. I'm in this 1862 PWI space, but I was with them. I'm just like them. Growing up from 6 to 12, I was in Fort Worth, so I know how it is, growing up. But I can also tell them it's a different side to everything. And being able to do something that you love to do that's uncommon, you should go for So that's the way that I connect with the youth.
Awesome. Thank you. So just for the audience to know, I'm going to ask one more question until last question to Darciea. Then we're going to pause and do some Q&A with the audience because I know you guys got questions and you guys got something in your mind. So Jay, get ready. You guys can type it in the chat or raise your hand. We'll unmute you and give you a chance to ask your question. Darciea, one thing I love about you and your approach is you know your audience. You know your people, right? And as I was telling you and Charles when I met you, I'm like, you guys are two opposite sides of a coin. As a brother who was on Soul Thursday once, he says, I'm writing this thing about Blackdom, Mexico in my PhD program, and I'm trying to get the research about how the land was stolen, but I got to get it past the white people in my PhD committee and into the hands of the Black people who need this information, right? So I need to write it in such an eloquent way that it get past all of their radars, but write it with substance that when the people of color get it, they know what they need to know. So I like the differences between you and Charles, but I love how you know your audience and connect with your people. I would love you to talk about that, but talk about it this perspective. Urban gardening. What are some key benefits of urban gardening that you see that everybody should consider? And also, what do you think communities can do to better create support for access to these healthy food options? Talk about your people, talk about the women, the audience of people you are trying to get to understand the benefits of filthy rich nutrients, and what can we do as a community to better help you and those people get more access to healthy food options.
The qualitative and quantitative research that I have had access to and was able to be a part of was for a 75241. So that is Highland Hill area, in which I did live in the Browns as well. So having that experience of the neighborhood, in addition to the education and the upward movement, there was a spiral and a shift in me being a non-traditional student at an HBCU. So that part shapes how I am able to communicate, with the community. Living in the Browns, I had a phone and I had a car. And this is back in 2000, 2002, 2003, 2004. Not everybody had a phone or a car in these food deserts. So that your face is rememberable, your energy is rememberable. And then after working with Paul Quinn and the market and things there, then I became a market manager for the Women, Infant, and Children, the WIC clinic. So I was able to see directly, for one, how the people be handling us, because the market was on Tuesdays, y'all, which I didn't understand that most of the farmers come to Dallas on Thursdays and they sell produce on Thursday. I'm talking about no shoes, missing teeth, dirt. I'm talking about farmers for real, So they do this like night market thing. Then they have the regular, I think it goes into Friday. Then they got a Saturday, Sunday markets, right? Then on Monday, they're still trying to do something with it, what they have, and what they have left over is what was going to us at the WIC clinic. And I didn't even know that was happening. I thought that everybody was actually harvesting for our market, because I thought everybody wanted they getting the money that they deserve, for it. So here I come being a manager of the market at Paul Quinn. My greens is fresh. They snapping. My celery good, beets popping. I didn't separate the top of the turnip from the bottom and make you pay two different prices. You know what I'm saying? Got everything together, everything. But all these other little urban farms in Dallas, stuff died, laid to the side. I'm having to sort through and throw out stuff. So I put them to shame with that, because all my stuff was being sold and your stuff is not. Then I'm starting to see that other markets or other farmers was bringing, I'm finding stickers on stuff. So you didn't even grow it, baby. But our urban dollars keep going to this. So in totality, I'm able to learn my community because I was able to advocate directly for them, because I personally am not getting ready to eat that, or I'm personally not getting ready to do this. And another thing, people make it seem as if, and this is something I overstood, you want to make it seem like our community don't want no good food. That's interesting. Because did you know the real problem, in my opinion, even though the qualitative and quantitative research is going to say something totally different, me being there, knowing my people and knowing that I lived over there, I understand that the slumlord is the problem. Why? Because the seals on the refrigerators and the freezers don't work. The eyes on the stove don't work, and nor do the elements in the oven. So how am I supposed to store this food, baby? I want it. I want to learn how to eat it and cook it and all that, but I can't, because if I take this home, it's going to spoil tomorrow. And so I have to get the canned goods. I have to get the box foods because my landlord is a slumlord. So knowing those powerful things help me communicate. Then also with the holistics, we're talking about women coming into the women, infant, and children place to get, low on iron. Why they can't just eat beets? I know the pregnant women cannot so much, but they can eat beet greens, better known as Swiss chard. There's other things to do. So being able to speak to that, I created this erotic event called Garden for the Pussy. And I thought that I was going to attract my clientele that I was working with. Because, when we doing marketing, we got the music on and, we was in there grooving and everything. I had my speakers all together. They were all holistic. And just so great. It was a lingerie and trench coats. I had this fabulous place downtown Dallas. It was cool. And the men that were teaching, they had their robes and their regular clothes on, but they wore robes. And then the MD, he came with the white coat because we don't have practice with the white coat. And we got the white coat syndrome, So anyway, I created this event. If I tell you, every woman that showed up at this event was a degree holder. It was not the population in which I thought I was going to communicate with. And it's nothing wrong with that. But I just assumed, once again, wrong. Trying to grow soil, wrong. Trying to do, I'm just in the wrong space. So I just need to be doing me. So I can help. And if you like what you see, then hey, hit me up. But other than that, that's how I engage with the community. That's why they have the respect that they have. And I was also able to give away a lot of food, and partner with other organizations that are doing something kind of similar.
Awesome. We're going to go to the audience for questions because OMG, y'all, I didn't even know what you call that event, but now it all makes sense. Jay, I'm going to put you on the screen because I don't, why am I so speechless tonight? I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I told y'all, intellectual crush. Everybody, I don't know what they do. But Jay, help me find some questions. Can you ask the questions first? Also, audience, I gave you a chance to unmute yourself. Let's talk to these speakers. I know you guys have all kinds of questions about gardening. You've had a chance to get to know this audience, their background, what they're passionate about. Ask them questions, but be ready because Darciea and Erin going to answer your questions. So, hey, Jay, you go first, and because I don't put you on the spot first. But audience, feel free to unmute yourself, raise your hand, type in your chat. We'll read your question for you, whatever works for you. Jay, you go first. What's your question?
Okay, I got my question. I just want to make this statement. Don't give up on that garden for the people. I feel like we could try this again. We need to get Beyonce, and then you from behind her and break it down. That's all I'm saying. But that's my assignment. That's my assignment. The question for you came from Erin Dale when you said we have to heal the soil, not just treat the plants. How? She says, how do we start to do this?
Great question. Thank you. Number one is observation first. Do you got something growing or don't you? You got some grass, you got weeds. What do you have growing? That's for me first. Because if I see a whole host of dandelions in your yard, that's going to tell me off top. Number one, two things. Universally, you might have some liver issues. You might have some things on the reason why you have a whole host of liver medicine in your front yard. Or your soil is just so compacted that it needs aeration. And dandelion, like sunflower and various others that have the root that can go way down, they can pull up calcium. So, I would want to look at you and look at, the yard. I'm looking at a whole bunch of things when I come and do an evaluation. Because sometimes this earth, your land, the universe, the Son of God, it's speaking directly to you. It's growing what you need. But a soil test comes after that. You do your observations and then you look at a soil. You actually go get a soil test. You can get one free if you're here in Dallas. Well, if you're anywhere that is near agricultural school or has an extension, ours is Texas A&M, but you can go into the extension office and get one of the 3. You know, it only does like a phosphorus, nitrates, and potassium. You know, so it just like really is narrow, but you can order a test or go to your local Callaway's or, you know, whatever type of nursery. And sometimes they have soil tests on hand. Because one thing that's not good for anybody or the land, if you just go get supplements, you don't just go take calcium without knowing you could just eat broccoli and then get in the sun for your vitamin D. So there's a chemistry to this thing that you must know. So when we just go and start taking, oh, I'm low on such and such, you don't know how low. So you want to have that quantitative data.
I'm gonna tell you, when you talk about the soil, Darciea, I be feeling like you're talking about me. I feel like I'm Eve. I just came out of the ground, and her assignment is to tell me how to take care of, as my dad would call it, this 97-cent worth of dirt that we have. I feel convicted, inspired, everything at the same time. Miss Arendelle, my question for you, because when Calvin said the thing about being there at the beginning, when you were first contemplating the idea, and now 10 years later, it's a thing with the cooperative food store, and the way you talked about it kind of makes it's contagious, right? It's going to have others looking to see how they can serve their community the same way. My question is, what is the legacy planning so that when it's 35 years from now or 50 years from now and another generation is sitting in the work that you made, what's the plan to make sure that they build on it and not destroy and have to start over from the ground?
Child, so there's a book called Collective Courage, The History of Black Cooperative Economic Thought and Practice by Dr. Jessica Gordon Nembhard. And in that book, she writes about the history of Black cooperative work in the U.S. So she's going to break down in there like the history of co-ops and also like what happened to destroy many of those and why a lot of the Black cooperatives don't exist anymore.
Right.
And in addition to that, there is a movement of Black cooperatives across the country. There's like 25 in development that I'm aware of personally. And the Detroit People's Food Co-op in Detroit, Michigan just opened this year. So if you Google the Detroit People's Food Co-op, you can kind of see a lot of that work. And also the Gem City Co-op that opened in Dayton, Ohio. And these are Black lit and Black serving. It doesn't mean that they're all Black and there are no other people. What it means is the leadership of these organizations is Black, and they work to like lift up Black leadership and respect and support Black leadership. To your point about like what to do, we got to really invest in the education and training in our organizations, and it has to be like number one priority. So for us, we have boot camps to talk about what co-ops is, and as we open, we have to like really commit to maintaining a lot of our resources in the training and education and the systems and the succession planning. So one of the things, for instance, we are doing as a board right now is training like the vice president to become the president. Because I've been in leadership for a long time as the president, not the only person, just the president. And we want to make sure that the people that come next have all the support that they need. So we have, for instance, a financial secretary that is getting ready to step off our board that's committed, Brother Ray, that's committed to making sure that the next financial secretary is fully trained and has all of this support. So succession planning is important to making sure the next generation is able to step into leadership. And sometimes some of us just got to like support new leadership and step aside. Because I think some people, we don't want to let it go of leadership, but what we don't understand is when we don't let go of leadership, we're crippling the future. I think that it's just really important to have a strong succession plan and really important to put money into education and training, which means there's a budget behind education and training in your organization.
Yes, indeed. I'm laughing at Darcia's comment. I love to talk about Jesse and them. Question from Bloom and Blaze. We are a nonprofit in Houston and are currently working on a grant funding for local food assessment. How can we find the gaps in the system, exactly like the WIC not having a garden program of their own? And would love to know how to be able to contact the whole panel, great information. So this is Bloom and Blaze. So they want to know how they can work on, the local food assessment, and they want to understand how to understand information like what's going on with WIC. What can we say? Because one of the things I'm thinking, Erin, is if you and your group are doing any consulting or helping other cities, launch their, but for Bloom and Blaze, what are your thoughts about the questions in Houston? Let me see if I can put it on the chat. Anybody want to take a stab at that, Darciea or?
Darciea, what do you think first?
Go ahead, girl.
Charles?
I would say biggest thing is being like how Darciea said with the soil, just be observational because it's not a one size fit all thing. You got to figure out what's the issue. Is it access? Do people have the transportation to get to their food source or to get to a grocery store? Is it availability? Do they even have the produce there? And if the produce is there, is it any good? So I think it's a culmination of different things. It's not a one size fit all. It's not just planting a garden over there and thinking that everything fixes everything. And sometimes it's education. Like it's a lot of programs for farmers markets that people do not know. If you have WIC, if you have SNAP benefits, it's a thing called double up bucks where people go to farmers markets. And if you have EBT or food stamps, you get double when you purchase there. So it's a little bit of everything. And I think I seen someone in the chat say do a community survey. You have to understand who's in the community as well, because you would hate to go in the community thinking they need something and they really don't need it. That's where, I would say like gentrification things happen because you think you know the community, but you really don't know your.
Come on.
Right. I agree with that 1,000%.
I love it. I love it. For you, Darciea, I had a question for you. I love how you talk about what to do when you're trying to eat healthy, but obviously you can't afford to. It's something about what you do with the seeds and what you do with the old food you get from the grocery store. Darciea, for anybody out there who's struggling, they may be on WIC, they may be on, various forms of aid. What's your advice for the moms out there who are trying to make ends meet and trying to eat healthy? What do they do with the stems? What do they do with the? What's your advice, Darciea?
Awesome. You just got to ration how much of your food stamps you sell versus how much you keep. But you also have to make sure that you're participating where the food donations and things are so that you can waste food. We're in a situation right now where waste is a problem. And we can't afford to try this or try that because if it don't work, I'm going to have some hungry, children or whatever. So the thing that I showed the ladies at the WIC clinic, because most of them were in between, I want to say like 22 and like 34. And the saddest part was that when they got there, they didn't know what anything was other than the onions, the bell peppers, or the fruit. Know any name of anything else. So even though they got the dollars, they got, $30 per child and themselves. So sometimes you sit and some of them could be sitting on $200 and something dollars, just to do the market. And they would start clinching up. I just take my whole $60 in strawberries. Girl, I don't have enough strawberries to do it. We can't. What you cooking tonight? I said, who cooks? Grandma. Call grandma, get her on FaceTime. She gets her on FaceTime. I said, girl, what you doing? We got produce out here. I got onions. Shit. Grandma said, let me see. So I'm walking with the phone. So then I tell the line, hey, everybody that don't cook, if y'all want to know what to get your people on the phone. So I'm working with, the person on the phone because the people that has the benefits ain't the one cooking.
Right.
That's like a level, right there that was just huge. But I forgot what your question was, trying to explain that.
What do you say about what happens when get the old vegetables and it may go, what you do with the seed?
So when some of the strawberries, some of the things are old. They're saying, "Oh my gosh, I like this is what you do. You farm, girl. Now I want to do that." So instead of me wasting my time now trying to come out and see, and you ain't figuring to do because you don't do heat, you don't do a whole bunch of stuff. What you can do in your window is you can smash that old strawberry in a paper towel. And you can put some soil on that and you can water it until you start to see germination. Those bell peppers that you have all got seeds in it. You throwing away all the money. Everything good on the inside. Take them bell pepper seeds out and put them in some soil. I guarantee you they're going to come up. Same with the onions, the green onions. Mm-hmm. You don't need to go all the way down to the rooter to the tutor. Just stop where it's green, stick that in some soil, and water it so it can regrow for next week so you can have some more green onions next week. There's opportunities for you to take everything that you already love to try. All them avocados that I eat because I'm addicted to that, gotta have it. I just throw them in soil. I haven't produced an avocado yet, but guess what? It's called shade. I got shade now for some of my other plants just based on, just trying to grow that. So take what you know, what you see that has a seed and see what you can do with it.
That's right.
While you're not spending no money. But we're paying, like I said, turnips and turnip greens. Why did they separate it on you? Put the turnip. Let's say I buy a whole bunch. I went and got a whole bunch of beets one time. Couldn't eat them. It was around COVID. Last thing at the pantry, got there late. I just buried them until I could eat them. And all the greens were coming up because I didn't want them to go bad. You can do the same thing with turnips too. You can do the same thing with root crops. Put them back in the ground and let them come to the top for you. So that's what I would recommend for anybody. The dollar store and all of those types of soil, don't get me started on a certain brand, but do what you can now. If that's all you can get, you have access to, play. Just go ahead and play.
Awesome. Y'all, we're getting close to the end of the time, but I want to thank each speaker. Erin, I'm going to give you a chance to say some last words. Charles, to say some last words. You dropped your information in the chat that people want to connect with you. Darciea, I would love to connect you with Erin. Erin, I think Darciea needs to come to Raleigh and do some workshops for the people. I just think,
I think so.
You need to get her to Raleigh and do some workshops for the people. Erin, any final last words, anything, I have my scripted question, anything you want to speak on that you didn't speak on? I'll be thinking about yours as well. And Darciea, we're going to come back to you. Anything you didn't say that you want to say? Go first, Erin. Anything you didn't get a chance to speak on, your call to action, the thing that you want the people to walk away with tonight?
I'm really inspired by this conversation. And I just want to pour hope into us that we have what we need in our bones to resolve our challenges together. I just want to lift that up because there's a lot out there to tell us as Black people that we can't do it. But we know we can do it. And it's not always easy, but it's beautiful. I put the link to Fertile Ground in the chat and I'll put it in there again. And, we're just here. I think we're all just here to be supportive of folks and to help folks in the ways that they need around the information of the support. So I would just say we have what we need in our bones. That's Mama Nail Watkins. We have what we need in our bones and we can do this. So yeah, I'll close with that, brother.
Awesome. Thank you, Erin. Brother Charles, any final words, anything you want the young people or even the old folks, what you want us to know walking away from the conversation? Because it seems like your generation next, you're out there, you're focused on agriculture, you're focused on, I like how you said, you went to school to be an athlete, but then all of a sudden you got turned on to so much more. What are your final words, call to action, Charles?
For the youth, I would just say be yourself and trust what innately comes to you. I remember I said this at the national, the Saving Black Families Conference. What got me here was my little boy passion, like something that I found when I was a kid that stuck with me. So anybody that's a youth and has something that's new, like different than the crowd, that they like their interest or anything like that, pursue it. And don't be scared and have faith. And more importantly, whenever you take that next step, whether that's creating a garden, whether that's anything in nature, go for it and try something new. Because at the end of the day, success is outside our comfort zone. And I feel like we've grown a lot. We've been very comfortable. We've gotten very comfortable. So I think more than anything, to be successful, to do anything that's different, I think try something new and take that leap of faith.
Thank you, Brother Charles. Thank you, sir. Lastly, Darciea, I know you said a lot. Let us know about the initiatives you're working with Fertile Ground. I know you travel back and forth to Augusta. What part of Georgia are you in? Yeah, Valdosta. Tell us about what's next for your organization and any last words you'd like to share with the audience.
Definitely. What's next for us is planning our conference, which we do during spring break, which is usually the first week in April for the last 3 years. The first year we focused on aquaculture. We had installed a backyard aquaculture garden that allowed the client to grow fish and vegetables on top of the water. And so that's what we went to Valdosta to engage those students in aquaculture. Then the second conference was about entrepreneurship. And I'm not talking about the entrepreneurship that we all, have gone to a university or a college and then, found that, no, I'm talking about trade. What in agriculture can bring to bread today, because that's the only thing that's getting the children engaged. So for me personally. And then Wednesday, body study, not Bible study, but body study. That is something it really did do well for us. The first time was about 3 months ago, and we focused for 5 weeks on circulation, air, breath, blood, energy, there's so much type of circulation. And with that, I was able to heal my low blood circulation, the numbing of my legs, the numbing of my hands. I'm on a flight, all those different things. But once again, back to being selfish. I now can help you, but I had to do it for self first. So the conference, Wednesday body study, and also trying to get the third Garden for the Pussy going on. Yeah, so I want to and aspire to speak to more people. I need more platforms to be able to share my story or motivate others. That's a desire of mine. So if anybody can help me with that. And also content creation, being able to have a platform. And I just, there's just so many different things. So that's my call to action, is for someone to help me with those particular things, the public speaking and the content creation, to actually do more. But thank you so much for your time, your cooperation. It's your girl, Darciea Houston, also known as Major Melanin, your favorite farmer here in Dallas, Texas.
Awesome. So, Jay, we got to make sure that she is at the next Creator is going to Create session. Jay, what do you think? OMG. I always like to play a few tracks just to kind of, wind myself down, especially after tonight, because, I got goosebumps. Jay, what are your thoughts about the speakers tonight? We started out talking about identity, social media movements, the Afro-Latinx population, in addition to trusting Black women. And OMG, we begin to talk about the future of Black farming. And y'all, it ain't what I thought it was going to be. Even the speaker surprised me that there's some future. And we got to figure out how to feed ourselves, as my brother Curtis Pitts would say, because tomorrow's not promised, and what we have today and our luxuries and our privileges aren't promised. So I love what the speakers are talking about. I love the cooperative philosophy that Erin begins to introduce us today. I love the down-home connection that Darciea is beginning to share with our everyday people, and letting them know that you too can be a gardener on your plot of land or in your bucket. And Brother Charles, Generation Next, has a message for the young people to say, hey, success is outside your comfort zone. Come on out of here. I started as an athlete. Now I'm into agriculture. I'm into urban farming. It is for you. It's not what I thought it was going to be. But I love what Darciea said. Just like I thought it was going to be this one thing, but she's learned it's something else. Jay, what are your thoughts?
Oh, my goodness. I'm going to tell you, I always love whenever it's, instead of it just being, this is the problem that we're talking about tonight, everyone is working in the solution. And they left us with nuggets on how we can get in where we fit in and begin to serve. But you notice every time we have anything with gardening, it's like something about the show kind of explodes. Anything with gardening kind of explodes at Soul Thursday. There's something there. So I'm excited. I feel like everybody was a poet tonight, in addition to everything else that they do.
Yes, indeed. Thank you all.